All right, y'all, what's going on? It's Combo Breaker 99 back with another video. All right, y'all, so a few days ago I did a live stream on this, but I just wanted to go ahead and put this into a video, just kind of shorten it down because there was a couple of other fights that I missed the other night that I wanted to talk about here that would be good on this upcoming card in April, because some of y'all wanted to know what matchups I'd like to see on this upcoming card in April. So yeah, I just want to go ahead and drop this video. What WMMA fights I want to see for UFC 300. All right, so right away I'll tell y'all right now, I'm being serious about it as far as playing matchmaker, because I want to keep it real, as far as what's going on in WMMA and what would be the logical matchups. I'm not going to be doing any fantasy type matchups with like Gina Carano versus Amanda Nunes or something like that. I'm not doing those type of matchups. I'm trying to keep it real as possible and, just play matchmaker in this one and just have some fun with it and talk about some good fights that would make sense here. And when I say keep it real, I'm going to try to keep it as real as possible as far as how many fights I'd want to see on there, as far as the UFC usually matches up with women. When it comes to like a pay-per-view card or a UFC Fight Night card, it's usually like 4 fights. So I'm going to do like 4 or 5 matchups in this video, 4 or 5 matchups, because that's usually as many women fights as we see on a card, right? So yeah, I got like 4 or 5 fights, and I'm going to also do it by levels. What fights would be good for the prelims up to what fights would be good on the main card. Early prelims up to the main card. I'm gonna pick like 4 or 5 fights in this one. All right. So yeah, go ahead and get started in this one. First off, I'm gonna start with, this would be like the opener on the early prelims or preliminary card. Josiane Nunes versus Melissa Dixon at 135. First off, I got to pick this fight because I shouldn't even have to explain this one, because if you ever seen Josiane Nunes fight or Melissa Dixon fight, even some of her fights before she got into the UFC, this matchup right here is guaranteed a banger. Because let's be real, the demographic that's going to be tuned into the UFC 300 card, a lot of them are wanting to see a lot of the men's fights. So the women, they're going to have to really do some work and make the men's eyes lock in, because like I said, a lot of people always say, oh man, like when the women's fight come on, I'm going to the bathroom, I'm gonna go get a beer, hopefully when I come back it's gone. So you got to put a matchup like this on the card. You got to put a matchup as the opener like this on the card, because you want to get those fans tuned into the women and let them know they bang just as well. And Josiane Nunes and Melissa Dixon, these two throw down. I mean, Melissa Dixon in her debut against Russian Ronda, this girl was taking heat and giving heat. She got dropped in the fight, got back up, was bloody, just throwing down on the feet, showed some good grappling as well. A lot of good strikes thrown in this fight, good combinations thrown by Melissa Dixon. So this girl, she has that fire in her, to put the show on. And I remember that night after the fight, a lot of people enjoyed that. I enjoyed that fight with the Russian Ronda. Melissa Dixon, she's that type of fighter. She has skills and technique, but like I said, once she gets hit, she'll throw down with you. She's that type of fighter. And Josiane Nunes, she needs to kind of get back in the mix. She's been inactive throughout this whole year. I believe she just fought once against Zara Farron this year. But once she gets into the octagon, this girl throws down. She's got power in both hands. Once she fights somebody that'll come forward like Melissa Dixon, I believe this fight could go either way. Somebody's getting dropped in this fight. Somebody might get stopped in this fight. You got Josiane Nunes with power in both hands. She's like a little Joe Frazier that's coming in, throwing that overhand left, throwing that long right hand, because, she has that like freakishly long reach for her, short frame. So, she's going to be like stepping in, landing those long shots on Melissa Dixon. And Melissa Dixon's going to be throwing back. So match these two up on the prelims of UFC 300. I think it's guaranteed a banger, man. Next fight I would say on the prelims would be this strawweight fight between Karolina Kavage and Yasmin Lacendo. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh man, why are you putting Karolina in there with Yasmin Lacendo? You trying to sign her death note? Nah, man, it's not like that. I just want to see another banger for UFC 300. And everybody knows right now that Karolina Kavage, she's a dog. She's durable, and she's kind of resurrected her career. She's like on a 4-fight win streak. Not necessarily to me like ready for the top 5 or top 10. So in the meantime, she could be, this type of threat for these girls on the come up, like Angela Hill. She's that type of gatekeeper that gives these girls tests. So, I think Karolina Kavage, she's still that type of fighter that, she's hanging around, the unranked realm in the lower part of the ranks, where, you know, she can still put on a show and, you know, get some good fights in and still make a name for herself by taking on, you know, these type of young fighters like Lendo. But Lendo, man, she's 2-1 in the UFC. You know, she's got 2 good wins. You know, she lost a close fight to Yasmin Jauregui, which showed that, you know, she's durable, has a dog in her, and has some good skills. She's still developing, but looking at some of the fights that she's taken and, you know, how experienced she is really in the world of MMA, because, you know, she started at the age of like 15 or 16. I think, you know, she'd be ready for a test like this, you know, and I think Karolina Kavage would be able to bring it to her, you know, because Yasmin Lucendo's been working on the ground game, her counter skills on the feet, you know, leg kicks, all of that, you know, and I think that that type of power and aggression she's bringing, you know, it could possibly be some trouble for Karolina and get her, you know, get her a win and get her in the rankings, and also give her like a fight of the night. So yeah, man, I'm putting a strawweight fight like this on the card on the prelims as well. You can't go wrong with it. Next fight, this fight here, I know once upon a time these girls were former champs right here, right? They're former champs, and, you know, a lot of men still follow them, you know, that 18 to 35 white demographic in MMA. They love them some Holly Holm. And look, I'm a fan of Holly Holm. I love some Holly Holm, you know, as a fighter. But, you know, these guys out here, you know, they love some Holly Holm. But when it comes down to Holly and even Miesha Tate, you know, they all love some Miesha Tate. They love some Cupcake Tate. When it comes down to it, I don't think these two really need to be on the pay-per-view part of the card anymore. So I would say put this fight as the headliner on the prelims. All right. 2 former bantamweight champs trying to, well, not necessarily close this rivalry out, because if Holly gets the win, it'll be 1-1, right? And you never know with these two, they might want to run it back in a rubber match. But yeah, this is a repeat. This would be Holly Holm versus Miesha Tate, the rematch. And it's a fight that it's kind of hard to say, man. Like, looking at these articles, I don't know if Miesha Tate turned down the fight, because in one breath they're saying Miesha Tate turned down the fight, in another she's saying she would love the rematch. Holly Holm, she would love the rematch. I don't know what's going on with why can't they just get this fight signed. But I think that this would be a good little throwback fight for the UFC 300 card, you know, to just kind of throw back and say, okay, we got 2 of the former bantamweight champs that, you know, used to hold the division down whenever bantamweight was prime and ready to go, kind of like pioneers in the UFC WMMA world. So I think that putting these 2 as a headliner on and kind of you know, just bringing that back and giving Holly Holm that chance to get some redemption against Miesha Tate, that would be a, you know, a good little closer for the prelims card, or, you know, somewhere on the preliminary card. I think this fight would fit in well, because, you know, like I said, Holly Holm, this is a fight that I think still kind of like irks her a little bit, because, you know, it was a fight she was winning. It was competitive. You know, I will say that now when I went back and watched it, it was competitive, but I had Holly Holm clearly winning up into that 5th round. But until she made that little mistake, man, I know that moment's always like replaying in her head, you know, because she's that type of fighter that likes to fight and, you know, keep competing, and she has that championship mindset. So I know it's like in her head. So that would be a fight that I would like to see on there, that she should get to try to close out her career, as well as Miesha Tate, because right now I don't think either one of them's ready to jump in there, you know, for a title shot next. Even off of this fight, this isn't really like a title eliminator. It's just kind of a revisit back in history for 300, just to kind of, you know, close out their chapter here, if they do close it out, or, you know, just let the fans, you know, kind of tune back into, you know, Holly and Miesha Tate. All right. Next fight, I already mentioned this one in another video, but yeah, I would definitely put this fight on the pay-per-view, the opener of the pay-per-view card. At 125, Jessica Andrade and Rose Namajunas. And so, like I said, for 2 reasons. It's a way Rose Namajunas can, you know, snatch her a number 5 ranking, you know, go ahead and get ranked at this point, and take Andrade's ranking, because, well, if she wins the fight, you know, because Andrade, I don't know where she wants to hang out, you know, right now. Does she want strawweight or flyweight? Because in a recent interview, you know, she said that there's nobody to fight at 115 anymore. And she said, I could reconsider moving back up to 125 and taking on Manon or somebody, but Manon's fighting Aaron now, so that's not going to happen, right? So I think the next best fight for Rose, you know, just to get into the rankings, because that's where she's returning in 2024, would be against Jessica Andrade. You know, familiar face, a banger, and, You know, like I said, their styles match up. You know, it's an action-packed opener, I think. You know, the last 2 fights were solid, great. It wouldn't be a boring fight at all. And, you know, it'd be curious to see how Rose is going to fill out at 125. Can she handle the 125-pound punch of Jessica Andrade and vice versa, you know? So, yeah, action-packed fight, man. That's why I think this one just needs to happen as well at UFC 300. It'd be a real good fight, I think. Definitely last but not least, this could be like the co-main event on the card is, of course, you know, let's go ahead and make this thing happen. Let's go ahead and make this thing happen. Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko 3. You know, I think it's the perfect turnaround time for both of them. You know, they've had their surgeries. They had their recovery time on their hands. I believe they're going to start getting back into training pretty soon. According to Dana, you know, Valentina's going to be striking, you know, in like by January or February. And by the looks of Valentina's post, you know, her hand looks good. I'm sure maybe it just needs to kind of rest a little bit, but there's no cast. There's nothing on it. You know, she's out there modeling now. You don't see any damage to the hand right now. You know, she's showing it, right? So, yeah, I think that by spring, you know, she'll be ready to go. Alexa Grasso, she'll be ready to go. And the fans, you know, they just want to see this one closed out because even though they've had some good fights together, you know, we got a lot of other great matchups that can be made at flyweight. You know, flyweight it has too many fighters right now to just ignore them and keep going with, like, you know, rubber matches and like quadrilogies and trilogies and all of that. You know what I mean? We don't need all that right now. I mean, 3 at most is fine with these two, but now we got to close it out. You know, even if Valentina was to win, there'd be 1-1-1. We got to move on to the winner of Aaron Bono next. So, yeah, I think this fight needs to go ahead and be like the third fight on the pay-per-view or the co-main event. If there's going to be like 2 or 3 championship fights, yeah, let this be the opening championship fight or the co-main event. Either one doesn't matter to me as long as they go ahead and put this on the card so we can close this one out. And you know, it's going to be in Vegas. I believe UFC 300 is in Vegas, like Dana White said. So it would be on fair ground this time, you know, because I think, you know, not Alexa Grasso, but Valentina said, you know, why don't we do it in Kazakhstan, you know, and not in Mexico this time? Because, you know, she felt like the judges were going to be against her. So I think just go ahead and put this thing on 300 in Vegas so they can wrap this thing up. But I think it's going to be a good fight, too. You know, I think these two, they have a good style matchup. You know, it's a good technical action style. You know, it's like a speed chess type style that goes on with these two. You know, I think they bring the best out of each other. I think that they're a thorn in each other's backside, especially Alexa's a thorn in Valentina's backside, you know, because she's really making Valentina dig deep more than any opponent really has in the past. You know, she's dropping her in fights. She's about to submit her in one fight. She finishes her in one fight. You know, she's actually connected on Valentina. When have you seen Valentina hit this many times? You know, even Amanda couldn't hit her this many times in 2 fights. So, you know, Alexa Grasso is really going to bring something out of Valentina that I think would be, you know, perfect on this 300 card. But, yeah, man, those are the 5 fights I'd want to see. Jocelyn Nunes versus Melissa Dixon at 135. Carolina Kavage, Yasmin Lucindo at 115. Holly Holm and Miesha Tate, 2 at bantamweight, you know, like in the opening bantamweight or the premiere, the headliner on the preliminary card. And Rose Namajunas, Jessica Andrade, 2. And the 5th fight would be Grasso Shevchenko 3. So that's like 5 fights. So I think, you know, any of those 5 fights, if they did 3 or 4 of those, you know, those would be good matchups for WMMA fans for UFC 300. But, yeah, that's all I got on this one, guys. Let me know in the comment section what y'all think. What fights would y'all want to see? Combo Breaker 99. I'm out. Subscribe. Peace.